Intellect, the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And with that being said, let's move forward. You know, we all strive for that relationship with God. You know, we all strive for the love He had for our father Abraham.
I'm Nasi Yashu. Welcome to the Spiritual Development Channel. I'm Nasi Yashu.
There's levels to this. It's only time to level up. Let's strive for greatness. Let's strive for the right thing. Yeah, let's down with for our fathers, the one that paved the way for what they.
Welcome to the Spiritual Development Channel. I'm Nasi Yashu, and we're going to get into a little psychology. We're going to get into a little mind today. Right? Today's lesson is the tree of knowledge and good and evil, the persona versus the shadow in Carl Jung. The scriptures is a multi-dimensional text with layers of different sciences. When Eve partook in the tree of knowledge of good and evil, something changed our world. Many would think that the tree of knowledge of good and evil deals with becoming wise, but that's a foolish interpretation. This interpretation is a reflection of the inadequacy of a person to improperly internalize the ancient writings. Now let's look at this. Before the tree of knowledge and good and evil, we had the psyche, one personality. But after we partook in the tree of knowledge and good and evil, it was broken in two parts, the conscious, which is your ego, and the subconscious or unconscious. The unconscious splits into two subgroups, the personal unconscious, which are repressed elements in one's life, things that happen to you as an individual that personally happen to you that maybe many people don't know. And the collective unconsciousness, which generates instincts and archetypes. So the collective consciousness is things that everybody is going through, how society has constructed you or made your mind or formed you. This evolves into cognitive structures that influences behavior, thoughts, and emotions. Us as people, we go through a process called individuation. It's a natural process where the psyche tries to find balance between the two parts of the psyche. So you got your conscious and your unconscious trying to find balance. And usually as humans or individuals, our persona takes over us, so we become what society wants us to be or the image we're trying to portray, and we tend to neglect the subconscious. And when we suppress or regress the subconscious aspect of who we are, we become very troubled in life because we're not identifying ourselves. Everything in the unconscious seeks outward manifestation, Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung says this, and it's very powerful because when your subconscious, you tend to see it when it comes out in arguments, or when you're angry, or you're mad, or you're upset, or when you're by yourself, or nobody's watching you. This is when your subconscious and part of you really starts to come out and play. Let's go into the scriptures and see how the scriptures tackles this same instant. Carl Jung was one who studied all ancient writings, and he was fascinated with the scriptures. And me studying Carl Jung kind of led me to break down a patriarch of the descendants of Cain a little different. And not because Carl Jung had led me there, but my mind and the spirit led me there to see the scriptures and a whole new aspect. All right, and Lamech. Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of one was Ada, and the other name was Zillah. All right, so let's get into a generalization. Now, we are going to start to deal with the unconscious and the conscious is going to actually become your persona, and the subconscious is actually going to become the shadow self. Well, Lamech is a ruler or a leader. And you can use this platform to look at people who are popular in society and weigh it against them, because many people, they put on an image or a persona, which is just the Latin word for a mask. Is a Latin word for a mask that's worn during the play. So many of us are a character that we want to depict to the people. So these actors or these famous people are usually one way when they're in front of the camera, but then news hits and you start to see things in their personal life, domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse, and certain things that their subconscious or their shadow self starts to leak out. So Ada was the name of one of Lamech's wife, and that's adornment. How do you adorn yourself? We adorn ourselves or dress ourselves up publicly to be seen a certain way. So that aligns with Carl Jung's archetype of the persona. And the other wife's name was Zila. Now Zila means shadow. And this is the other archetype, the shadow self, which Carl Jung speaks about. Now, look at men. Let's use men for example. And the Bible it gives a wonderful example of using polygyny or two women to determine how to read a man. Now, usually a man has his main wife or a woman that he wants society to accept, and he picks this woman because she's good socially and she's socially accepted, and he has kids by her, living this characteristic or this personified life that he's looking for. But sometimes men have this woman on the side that is just a woman that is not good, or just a woman of his desire. She has nothing the wife has, but she is sexually attractive and talks to all his dark subconscious aspects. So the scriptures shows you archetypes or how men view women and how they choose mate selection and how they deal with bringing women into their life in some aspects. Now, in an article called Shadow Self, Embracing Your Inner Darkness, in response to his serious preoccupation, Jung created the archetype model and concept wherein he believed our unconscious minds are fragmented or structured into different selves. In the attempt to organize how we experience different things in life, two of Jung's major archetypes are the persona and the shadow self. So what exactly is the persona and the shadow self? Well, the persona, according to Jung, defines what we would like to be and how we wish to be seen by the world. The word persona is derived from the Latin word that literally means mask. However, in this instance, the word can be applied metaphorically, representing all of the different social masks that we wear among different groups of people and situations. On the other hand, the shadow self is an archetype that forms part of the unconscious mind and is composed of repressed ideas, instincts, impulses, weaknesses, desires, perversion, and embarrassing fears. This archetype is often described as the darker side of the psyche, representing the wildness, chaos, and the unknown. Jung believes that this latent disposition are present in all of us, in many instances forming a strong source of creative energy. So Carl Jung believes that we have this dark side that we repress because it is not accepted socially. And because we repress it, we almost do not attend to it. And when we do not attend to it, it becomes out of control and starts to flood into our conscious life. And it causes chaos because we didn't manage it or tame it. It is something to really consider when you're dealing or trying to evaluate yourself. Remember, the individuation process that you're going through in life, you're seeking to find balance between the two. But many of our creative aspects come from this dark side. If you look at lawyers or artists or geniuses, they're usually probably sometimes alcoholics or people who are introverts and don't really deal good with other people. And this is how they create. So Jung sees that there is a way to channel from the shadow self and create something that is magnificent in your conscious life, when you know how to engage it and you know how to level it. It also goes on and says, we are all born pure like a blank canvas, but at some point during our childhood development, we learn knowledge that teaches us to separate things into good and evil. The moment we ate from this tree of knowledge, our shadows are born and we begin to divide ourselves. Furthermore, in our cultural socialization process, we begin to sort out those traits within us that are acceptable in society and those unacceptable traits that aren't, which are later hidden away, as Carl Jung says. What we call civilized consciousness has steadily separated itself from the basic instincts, but these instincts have not disappeared. They have merely lost their contact with our consciousness and are thus forced to assert themselves in an indirect fashion. This may be by means of physical symptoms in the case of neurosis. All right, this is how we die. This is how we become a person that is slowly beginning to fall apart or deteriorate, or by means of incidents of various kinds, or be accountable moods or unaccountable moods, or unexpected forgetfulness, or mistakes in speech. Modern man protects himself against seeing his own split state by a system of compartments. Certain areas of outer life of his own behavior are kept, as it were, in separate drawers and never confronted with another. So this neurosis we start to see is where we have moods or spurts that just become out of control, and we start to get real forgetful, and we start to see slurs or mistakes in our speech because we're battling and we're conflicted in two different areas, and we're not trying to find the balance in the two. And I say this to say that look at the Zila, the shadow self of you, who you are. Acknowledge it and acknowledge that it's part of your creativity and not something that is to be pushed or suppressed because it doesn't have a place in society. Many of us are so caught into our persona or our ego that we do not identify ourselves with the negative traits or things that happen in ourselves that we regressed, in these elements that we regressed in our past. And not being able to identify with that, we dwell so much in a persona that we're lost, and we don't have an individuality or individuation process is not completed properly because of we only seeing ourselves as our persona. Thank you for listening to this lesson. And I hope that you were able to draw from the scriptures and understand the process of how we were divided into two psyches. Two parts of the psyches, and how we are constantly battling to find ourselves back to the oneness of God. Share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.